Hello, comrades. I'm here in the closet today to trying to get the best sound that I can get. And I'm actually going to be reading from the history of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, the Bolsheviks, by Joseph B. Stalin. Okay. The following are the main organizational principles which Lenin expounded in his book, and which afterwards came to form the organizational foundations of the Bolshevik Party. The Marxist Party is a detachment, a working class, of the working class. But the working class has many detachments, and hence not every detachment of the working class can be called a party of the working class. The party differs from the other detachments of the working class primarily by the fact that it is not an ordinary detachment, but the vanguard detachment, a class-conscious detachment, a Marxist detachment of the working class armed with knowledge or life of society, of the laws of its development, and of the laws of its class struggle. And for this reason, able to lead the working class to direct struggle. The party must therefore be confused with the working. Not be confused with the working class, but as part must be not confused with the whole. One cannot demand that every striker be allowed to call himself a member of the party. However, for whoever confuses party and class lowers the level of consciousness of the party to that of every striker. Destroys the party as the class-conscious vanguard of the working class. It is not a task of the party to lower its level to that of every striker, but to elevate the masses of the workers, to elevate every striker to the level of the party. We are a party of a class, Lenin wrote, and therefore almost the entire class in times of war. In the period of civil war, and the entire class should act under the leadership of our party, should adhere to our party as closely as possible. But it would be in Manilovism, smug complacency, a Kostovism, following in the tail, to think that any time our capitalism in the entire class, anytime under capitalism, the entire class, or almost the entire class, would be able to rise in the level of consciousness and the activity of its vanguard, of its social democratic party. No sensible social democrat has ever yet doubted that under capitalism, even the trade union organizations, which are more primitive and more comprehensive in the underdevelopment strata, are unable to embrace the entire, or almost the entire working class. To forget this discussion between the vanguard and the whole of the masses which gravitate towards it. To forget the constant duty of the vanguard to raise ever wider strata to this most advanced level, means merely to deceive oneself, to shut one's eyes to the immensity of our tasks, and to narrow down these tasks. Lenin's Collected Works, Volume 6, page 205 through 6. 2. The party is not only the vanguard, the class-conscious detachment of the working class, but also as the organized detachment of the working class, which its own discipline, which is binding to the members. Hence, party members must necessarily be members of the organization of the party. If the party we are not organized detachment of the class, not a system of organization, but a mere agglomeration, I think. Besides, persons who declares themselves to be a party member, but not do not belong to the party organized and therefore are not organized, hence not obliged to obey party decisions. The party would never have a united will. It could never achieve the united action of its members, and consequently it would be unable to direct the class struggle, working class. The party can lead this practical struggle of the working class and direct it towards one aim only if that all the members are organized in one common detachment, welded together by unity of will, unity of action, and unity of discipline. Well, I'm just gonna The objection raised by the Mensheviks that the case of many intellectuals, for example, professors, university and high school students, etc., would remain outside the ranks of the party, since they would not want to join any organizations of the party, either because they shrink their party discipline, or as Plekhanov said, at the Second Congress, because they consider it beneath their dignity to join some local organization. This Menshevik objection recoiled on the heads of the Mensheviks and themselves as a party, and does not need the member who shrinks from party discipline and fear to join the party organization. Workers did not fear discipline and organization, and they willingly join the organization if they have made up their mind. The individualistic intellectuals who fear discipline and organization, and they would indeed remain outside the ranks of the party. That was all too good, for the party would be spared that influx of unstable elements which had become particularly marked at the time when the bourgeois democratic revolution was on the upgrade. When I say Lenin wrote, that party should be a sum, and not a mere arithmetical sum, but a complex organization. And I hereby express clearly and precisely my wish, my demand. The party, as a vanguard of the class, should be organized as possibly that of a party should admit to its ranks only such elements as lend themselves to at least a minimum of organization. And further, Martov's formulation ostensibly defends the interests of the broad strata of the proletariat, but in fact it serves the interests of the bourgeoisie, or intellectuals who fight shy of the proletarian discipline and organization. Now, no one will undertake to deny that it is precisely its individualism and incapacity for discipline in the organization that is generally distinguished in intellectuals as a separate stratum of modern capitalist society. And again, the proletariat is not afraid of organizing the discipline. The proletariat will do nothing to have the worthy professors and high school students who do not wish to join the organization. It is not the proletariat, but certain intellectuals in our party who lack the self-training and the spirit of organization and discipline. 3. The party is merely an organized detachment, but the highest of all forms of organization of the working class. and it is mission to guide all the other organizations in the working class as the highest form of organization, consisting of the finest members of the class, armed with an advanced society, an advanced theory, with a knowledge of the laws in the class struggle with the experience of the revolutionary movement. The party has every opportunity of guiding and obliged to guide all the other organizations of the working class. The attempt of the Mensheviks to belittle depreciate the leading role of the party tends to weaken all the other organizations of the proletariat, which are guided by the party, and consequently to weaken the disarmed proletariat. For in its struggle for power, the proletariat has no one weapon for organization. Lenin's Left Works, Volume 2, page 466. That's what that was from. Thanks for bearing with me, you guys. I'm reading this whole thing for you guys, but let me get back to it. For the party is an embodiment of the connection of the vanguard, the working class, and the working class, millions. However fine a vanguard and party may be, and however well it may be organized, it cannot exist and develop without connections and non-party masses, and without multiplying strengthening these connections. The party, which shuts itself up in the shell, isolates itself from the masses and loses or even relaxes its connections with its class. It's bound to lose the confidence and support of the masses, and consequently is surely bound to perish. In order to live in the life in the full and develop, the party must multiply its connections with the masses and win the confidence of the millions of its class. In order to be social democratic party, Lenin said, we must supply precisely of the class. Lenin Collected Works, Volume 6, page 208. 5. The order of the function of the property to guide the masses systematically, the party must be organized on the principle of centralism, having one set of rules and uniform party discipline, one leading organ, the party Congress, and the intervals between Congress and the Central Committee of the party of the minority must submit to the majority. Various organizations must submit to the center and the lower organizations to the higher organizations. Following these conditions, the party of the working class cannot be a real party and cannot carry out its tasks in guiding the class. Of course, as under the Tsarist autocracy, the party exists illegally. The party organization could not in those days be built up on the principle of election from below, and as a consequence, the party the party had to be strictly conspiratorial. But Lenin considered this temporary feature in the life of the party would at once lapse in the elimination of Tsardom, when the party would become open and legal in the party organizations, and it will be built upon the principles of democratic elections, of democratic centralization and centralism. Formerly, Lenin wrote, our party was not a formally organized whole, but only the sum of the separate groups, and therefore not other relations except those of the ideological influence were possible between these groups. Now we have become an organized party, and this implies the establishment of authority, the transformation of the power of ideas into the power of authority, and the subordination of the lower bodies to the higher party bodies. Accusing the Mensheviks of organizational nihilism and of aristocratic anarchism, which would not submit to authority of the party and its discipline, Lenin wrote, "The aristocratic anarchism is particularly characteristic of the Russian nihilist. He thinks the party an organization as a monstrous factory. He regards the subordination of the part to the whole and the minority to the majority as serfdom. Divisions of labor under the direction of the century evokes in him the tragical outcry against people being transformed into wheel and cogs, to turn editors into contributions, being considered as particularly considered species of such transformation. Mention of the organizational rule of the party calls forth the contemptuous grimace and the disdainful remark intended for formalists, and that one could very well dispense with rules altogether." Lenin Selected Works, Volume 2, page 442 through 43. 6. In the practical works of this wants to preserve the unity of its ranks, the party must impose a common proletarian discipline equally binding on all party members, both leading the rank and file. Therefore, there should be no division within the party into the chosen few, on whom discipline is not binding, and the many whom the discipline is binding. If this condition is not observed, the integrity of the party and the unity of its ranks cannot be maintained. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. I'm really tired. I'm running on about 2 hours of sleep. The complete absence of sensible arguments on the part of Martov and Company against the editorial board appointed by the Congress, Lenin wrote, is best of all shown by their own catchword: "We are not serfs." The bourgeoisie intellectual, who regards himself as one of the chosen few standing above the mass organizations and the mass discipline, is expressed here with remarkable clarity. It seems that individualism and intelligentsia, that all proletarian organizations and discipline is serfdom. And further, as we proceed with the building of the real party, the class-conscious worker must learn to distinguish the mentality of the soldier of the proletarian army, of the mentality of the bourgeois intellectuals who make a display of the anarchist phraseology. He must learn to demand the duties of the party member be fulfilled, and not only by the ranks of the filers, but by the people at the top as well. Lenin Selected Works, Volume 2, page 445 through 46. Summing up the analysis of differences between the positions of the Mensheviks and the opportunists, opportunism is a matter of organization. Lenin considered that one of the gravest sins in the Menshevism lay in the underestimation of the the importance of party organization as a weapon of the proletariat. In the struggle for the emancipation, Mensheviks held the party organization of the proletariat was no great importance for the victory of the revolution. Contrary to the Mensheviks, Lenin held that the ideological unity of the proletariat alone was not enough for victory. If victory was to be won, ideological unity would have to be consolidated by the material unity of organization, quote, end quote, of the proletariat. Only on the condition when considered could the proletariat became an invincible force. It is in its struggle for power, Lenin wrote, the proletariat has no other weapon but organization. Disunited from the rule of the anarchic competition in the bourgeois world, ground down by force, labor for capital constantly thrust back into lower depths of utter destitution, savagery, and degeneration of the proletariat can become the inevitable will become an invincible force only when its ideological unification by the principles of Marxism is consolidated by the material unity of the organization, which will hold millions of toilers into an army of working class. Neither the decrepit rule of Russian Sodom nor the senile rule of international capital will be able to withstand this army. With these prophetic words, Lenin concluded his book. Such were the fundamental organizational principles set forth by Lenin in his famous book, One Step Forward, Two Steps Back. And that is all. Thank you, comrades. I hope you learned something from this.